Hi everyone, I'm Mara Webster with SAG-AFTRA Foundation, and I'm so thrilled to be joined today by Hannah Marks, who is writer, actor, and executive producer of Banana Split, along with Liana Liberato, who plays her co-lead in the film. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today. How are your quarantines going so
far? Quarantine's good though. We were just saying that it's not really much different than what we do every day anyway, so
yeah, I just feel bad for everyone that's sick, but for me, I hang out at home all the time anyways, so it's not too different.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, I wanted to jump into talking about the movie, which is so great. And Hannah, obviously you were writing this with Joey Power, who you've also previously collaborated with. And I was interested in what some of the things were that you learned from collaborating together previously, and how you altered and changed and evolved your working relationship in writing the script for Banana Split.
Oh, that's such a good question. We actually wrote Banana Split first. Originally it was called Eskimo Sisters, and it was something I had started as a teenager, and then Joey came on and helped evolve it with me and brought a real outside perspective to the material. So the working relationship didn't change too much because Banana Split was actually the origin project. But we definitely learned a lot from directing After Everything versus just writing and producing on Banana Split. That's, entirely different roles.
Yeah. Given that you were basing it partly on some of your own experience from a relationship in high school, how did you set about figuring out how much of your personal self and your personal life you wanted to allow to seep into the script as you were writing?
Well, the very first draft, and Liana knows this, my character was an actress, and there was pretty much no difference between me and my own life and then the actual screen.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then over time, the movie was in development with so many different places, and everyone has their own notes, and you get further away from the events that inspired it, and you can see it more clearly. And it didn't make sense for my character to be an actress, and it made more sense to add a little sister, even though I don't have a sister, and just making those changes to serve the actual purpose of the story instead of tell my life. It's way more interesting that way.
Yeah. And for you, Liana, because Hannah was sharing pages of the script with you before it was even fully written, when it was first being drafted and not complete yet. So at what point did you know that you were going to step into one of the characters, and how did your attachment influence the development of her as well?
I did not know that I was going to play Clara until many, many, many years after I read the first draft. I mean, Hannah and I have been friends for about 16 years now, and I've sort of watched the evolution of her career from beginning to now, and we've just always been, I mean, ever since we were really little, we were like reading sides together for auditions, and she helped me like sign up my first MySpace page, and so like we were always doing things together. So in my head, reading her script when I was 15 was really just me being her cheerleader. And obviously it was a dream to work together, but I mean, I never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that it was actually going to come true. But honestly, I think, Hannah, you can correct me, but I feel like not much changed for the Clara character when I signed on. It was pretty much Clara was Clara from the beginning, I'm pretty sure. And but it did, I think filming it, Hannah and I having known each other for so long, we kind of skipped the awkward phase of getting to know your co-stars, and so that was kind of nice because we were like right in it and knew exactly how one another worked and how to, I don't know, just it was, we could improvise together and throw ideas at one another, so that was fun. Yeah, it was very easy.
Yeah. Does it really, just having a scene partner that you trust so implicitly, did that really allow you to try different things and really push yourself as performers in a different way?
Yeah. Also, I was spoiled and I had the writer next to me, so I could always ask her questions about why I was saying certain lines or if I could try it this way. And so that was really nice for me too.
Yeah. What were some of the useful things that Hannah helped you figure out in terms of Clara through that process while you were filming, being able to ask her a question at any point?
I mean, I think it helps that this story was very close to her, and it's something that she had kind of experienced. So if there were specific moments in which my character was supposed to evoke a certain emotion out of her, I was able to ask her why and what I can do to make that emotion stronger, or, continue, push the story forward. That's sort of what we were doing.
And for you, Hannah, when you were casting Liana into that role, what were some of the strengths of her as a performer and as an actor that you really felt that she would bring to that role that no one else could?
Well, I always hoped it would be Liana as Clara, but I also never knew if I was actually going to get to play April. So that it was just a very long process of being able to figure out how the movie could get made with us still acting in it. And I always hoped it would be Liana because of our friendship and because I've watched her grow and because we were little kids together, and I knew we would have that connection and it would make the experience more fun and enjoyable. But also I think Liana as an actress can do anything. She can literally do anything. There's no reason to put her in a box that she could just do, one thing. I had no reason to doubt her abilities. So it was just exciting to get to play together and be present instead of doing that whole awkward catch up of getting to know each other. Just got to dive in.
Yeah. And then obviously both of you knew the script incredibly well by the time it came to filming. With you, Hannah, you'd written it, and Liana had lived with it for such a long time and given notes and feedback on it. So how did that alter the way that you would usually prepare for a role, because you already knew these characters a lot more than you would normally?
Well, I feel like normally I prepare alone, and in this case, we got to prepare together because we live 3 minutes from each other. So before shooting, there was no time or money for rehearsals, but Liana and I got to do rehearsals regardless because we live right next to each other and we love each other. So that was a huge benefit, just prepping all the biggest scenes in advance together, and also learning that rap to Bling Bling Bitch. We studied that to death because you have to rehearse something like crazy to make it look not rehearsed. So that was a huge benefit to the preparation process.
We were bouncing around my apartment singing Bling Bling Bitch.
So
a lot.
One of the things I also really love in watching the film is all the details of friendship between women that you get so specific. The first night that your characters meet each other, you're holding back each other's hair as you're being sick. And there's a lot of little tiny nuanced moments in terms of the emotion and the physicality between them. So how did you figure out what all those rhythms and beats were going to be?
In the screenwriting process?
In the screenwriting process, and then also just physically on camera as well together.
Well, I think in the screenwriting process, it was just, asking questions like, what is the funniest situation for them to be in? Which would be like, my character thinks she hates Clara, and what would be the worst thing in that situation? Oh, for her to have to hold my hair back as I puke. That's so embarrassing. Like, just how can you find the most embarrassment? I think that's the most fun thing to write. It's such a powerful emotion. We always remember times when we're embarrassed. So just finding those moments to amp those stakes were really important. And then in terms of the physicality, acting opposite each other, that was so easy because I touch her boob in it, and all these things that would be awkward with someone you don't know didn't have to be awkward. I'm like, practically forgot I was touching her boob because it didn't matter.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you about, Liana, is that first scene where Clara and April first meet each other at the house party. It feels like a lot of the believability as to Clara coming in and knowing who April is and actually being interested in getting to know her lies with your performance in that moment. So how did you navigate thinking about that scene and making sure that audiences would believe your character at that point?
I mean, I think it was just living with the script for a while, and also all of those party scenes happened to be the first scenes we filmed of the movie, so it all felt like uncharted territory for all of us in that moment too, which was really fun. And I think maybe just the feeling of that on set maybe just translated really well onto the camera. So yeah. And there was this like weird charged feeling between Hannah and I being on screen together for the first time and feeling out these characters and like laying the foundation for the rest of the movie. So maybe I just lent to that.
Yeah. And also you were shooting on an incredibly short schedule to get this film made. And I'm always interested, because you go into it knowing that you have less time, if that forces a different style of creativity, because you know that you don't have the time to do more takes. You really have to kind of push through and get everything much quicker, but also still you want to make sure that you get everything right.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of our rehearsals came into play. I mean, before we even flew to Syracuse, Hannah and I went on like this massive shopping trip with our wardrobe, Mona May. She did wardrobe for the movie, and I mean, for hours we were walking around wondering, oh, do you think Clara would wear this? Would April wear this? And I mean, I think all of that prepared us like unknowingly for what was to come. But also I don't know, I think that the short amount of time, it created this energy where we were just like constantly pumped and excited and willing to do crazy things and improvise. And I don't know. Yeah. I
just not have to wait around on a set, because we spend so much time waiting around. So it's nice to just go.
Yeah, both Hannah and I feel like are conditioned to do really like to act quickly and everything due to all of our times on independent films. So it didn't feel that crazy to us.
It's also something where every single film has different obstacles that you need to overcome and different limitations. And I know for you guys that one of them was you were actually filming this in New York in wintertime for LA summertime. So what were some of the other obstacles and limitations that the film had, and how did you work to overcome those and push through?
Yeah, it was hard because, filming in New York in the winter when the movie takes place in LA in the summer makes no sense. But you have to do what you got to do to get the movie made. So we had to shoot in a lot more interiors than we would have liked, because it was constantly blizzarding outside. So that was tricky, because so many of the locations in the movie are these like LA staples. So that was really hard just on the filmmaking side to adapt our idea of the movie. But I personally, as an actor, love being inside and love being in controlled conditions. So that's nice in my own selfish way. But yeah, it definitely made us rethink what the movie was and what the feel of the movie was going to be. And also we chose locations that we hoped could match somewhere in the Valley in LA, even though they were in upstate New York. So just being really picky with the locations we did choose.
I think it absolutely works, because I had no idea that was where the film was actually recorded until I started digging into it afterwards.
Yay! Yeah, we did have to do a week of shooting in LA to get all the exteriors, because obviously you can't have an entire movie take place inside. So we did rush that last week. That week was crazy. That was
crazy.
The rest of our shoot, because we had a whole new crew, and just trying to get into rhythm is really hard after you've had a break for Christmas and all that. So it was pretty crazy.
Hannah, I also wanted to ask you about working with Jessica Hecht, who plays your mom in the film, because she's such an incredible performer and she has such a wealth of experience as an actor in the industry. And I was interested if there was anything that you picked up and learned about the craft of acting just from working alongside her on this movie.
Well, she had actually already played my mom before. So we had done a movie together, and I loved her and was obsessed with her, and then became even more obsessed with her once I realized she was Susan on Friends. Because that's really the only time I get starstruck, is if I meet someone that was on Friends. Even if they had one line, I'm like, I can't handle it. Like I just worked with Maggie Wheeler, who played Janice on Friends, and I swear I was like shaking. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, she did. She played the receptionist in Mark Mary and some other people. Anyway, so that was just super exciting. I love anyone from Friends, and she's so talented. And I had seen a ton of her work in the theater world, because she's pretty big in the New York theater community. So I was just a massive fan, and I think you always do your best work when you really respect your collaborators and are excited to be with them. So yeah, and she's just so kind and supportive. I'm not sure specifically what I learned, but I know that she makes me better.
Yeah. One of the other collaborators that I was interested in was your director, Ben Kasulke, who's an incredibly talented cinematographer who's done a lot, especially in mumblecore, working with directors like Megan Griffiths and Lynn Shelton. And obviously this is also a very dialogue-heavy script that with like a very specific pacing to it and a cadence. And I was interested in what you really felt that that experience of his would bring to this film as a director, because this was also his narrative debut.
Yeah, Ben and I met at the Sundance Labs in 2012. So we were longtime friends already and just bonded over loving all the same types of movies. And I knew that he was a cinematographer who wanted to become a director. And I really identified with that because I was an actor who wanted to become a writer and a producer. So we really just bonded over wanting to be multi-hyphenates and loving the work. And it seemed like a perfect opportunity to get to make something together where we were both stepping out of our comfort zone and doing something new. And as a person, he's just so thoughtful and kind and communicative that he seemed like the perfect leader for us to all have a really great experience.
Yeah. How did you work with him in terms of making sure that he was capturing the creative vision that you really had from the script, but also still giving him that freedom to have his own creative input on everything as well?
Yeah, it's a balancing act. I think I'm such a control freak that sometimes I failed at that and sometimes I succeeded at that. I think it doesn't really become my creative vision anymore because how he directed the movie is entirely different than how I would have done it. But that being said, I'm so glad he did it that way because everything needs a fresh outside perspective and everything becomes better once more talented people are involved. So it wasn't really about, I guess, protecting my vision or the vision that Joey and I had. It was more about like, how can we serve the story that Ben now wants to tell?
Yeah. And for you, Liana, as an actor on set, what was the environment that Ben created to make you and the rest of the cast feel really comfortable in having that freedom to explore and try new things in your performances?
It was amazing. I think I met Ben at a coffee shop right when I signed onto the project, and he just has such a warm energy to him. I mean, I think both Hannah and I can attest to this, and we've worked with first-time directors and also very seasoned directors. And I mean, Ben is just as equipped as any other very seasoned director. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you didn't know, you wouldn't have known that this was his first time directing a movie. And he's just such a wonderful collaborator, as Hannah said. I think the best thing that a director can do is walk on set and be like willing to listen to your actors and be moldable. And I think everyone should be that way on a set. And he definitely possesses those qualities for sure.
One of the elements of the film that's really impressive from a visual standpoint is the way that all of the locations were crafted and the amount of detail, even with a tiny prop that's in the corner that was paid. Do you find for yourselves that having that sort of detailed setting really helps you in terms of navigating and finding your performance as actors?
Hannah, you love that stuff.
I do. I mean, I think our production designer is super talented. Her name's Almitra Corey, and she's just killing it. I mean, she's basically designing every cool TV show and movie right now. So we were really lucky to have her. And then just it's also a function of it taking so long to get made. You have time to think of all those details that you want to add and think of those Easter eggs that you want to include and have all of those conversations that sometimes you don't have the luxury to have. And I think it does affect the performance because your environment is so huge when your environment changes or wasn't what you expected. Like how you act in a scene, let's say it's a party scene, is going to be totally different if the party has 10 people versus 50 people. Or, you know, if it's completely dark and moody versus all the lights are on. You know, it's just all of those things inform how you behave in real life and on set, I think.
Yeah. I was also interested to know, because the film has a very great comedic element to it as well, and there's a lot of jokes within it. There's a lot of physical comedy, but it's still got a really great emotional core and heart to it. Do you allow yourselves to think about the comedy in the way that you're going to try and make that land, or do you really just focus on the emotional aspect and the performance at hand?
I mean, Liana, correct me if you feel differently, but I really was not trying to think about the comedy at all. was just thinking about the emotions. I think if something's real, then you have a better chance at someone finding it funny than if you're trying to be funny.
Yeah.
So that was really my goal the whole time, but tell me if you feel differently.
No, I mean, I think the beauty of this story and Hannah's writing and Joey's writing is that you kind of let the humor speak for itself. You don't have to push it that hard. And that's a dream for an actor, because you can just play the truth of the scene and let the rest speak for itself.
Yeah. I also wanted to jump back quickly to your friendship existing for so long within the industry, because you were mentioning that you've known each other for about 16 years and you've both been in the industry for that entire time, acting as well. And I was interested in what some of the really key things are that you learned at a young age and from being on set and going through the whole casting and audition process were that still really serve you as performers and actors today.
Oh my. So I feel like there's countless things. Well, when Liana was 9,
oh God.
I mean, you started acting a little bit before me, Liana, in a professional sense. Like you had already done that episode of Cold Case.
Oh, yes.
And I remember hearing, she told me she had done an episode of Cold Case, and that was like the most inspiring thing I'd ever heard. I was like, wow, it's possible. You can do it. You can get on TV and have a job as like a little kid. I mean, we didn't feel like little kids at the time, but she having already done that episode when I met her really showed me that it was possible. And that's irreplaceable. I mean, maybe that's a silly example, but it was just the very first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, the beauty of Hannah and I having been friends for so long is we've really seen every single stage of each other's careers, like the good times, the bad times. And
so many ups and downs. I can't stress this enough. So many ups and downs.
So many. But it's cool because, Hannah met me when I got my first job, and I met her when she got I knew her when she got her first job. And I feel like she's the first person that I call whenever I'm feeling like sad about something or super excited about something or confused, because it's just, you've been through the ringer with me. Yeah.
And obviously so much of acting isn't just about the performance and showing up on set. There's a whole business side of everything that goes into it. So what was important to you in terms of the support system that you had around each of you growing up within that industry and navigating that side of things as well?
Well, one of our other best friends, Haley Ram, she is in the movie as well. She plays one of my friends in the beginning, one of the less intelligent characters. And we have been auditioning with her since we were little kids as well. So it's crazy just growing up together and all still being friends, and we haven't quit yet. We're still doing it. And it's so important to have that, to share that history with people, because you can be fully yourself around them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that I touched on this a little earlier this week, but and it got me thinking a lot, because this movie as a whole just feels very full circle, having Haley be in it and Hannah and I, and I mean, Hannah, I'm sure you felt the same way, but I think when we first started acting, I feel like young actresses were always kind of pitted against each other. And
that's what I was getting at, but then I forgot mid-sentence. So thank you.
No, but I mean, Haley Ram, I was terrified of her in auditions. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Haley Ram. She's so talented. She's so good. And I'm totally going to lose this part out to her. And it turns out she felt the same way about me. And I think that eventually when you're in this long enough, you do create a community with the people that have been around for so long. And you realize that you're all just human and you're all just trying to do what you love. And you all kind of start to champion each other after a while. And that feels really fun. It feels like a really nice, supportive community around you.
I totally agree. I used to hate, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say I used to hate auditioning because of all the stress and competition involved in it, and anxiety and nerves. And now you do it long enough and you just feel like, whatever, who cares? This is fun. We get to act. We get to do what we want to do. I how many people can say that? We get to follow our dreams. So I feel like I'm actually more childlike in my innocence and optimism now than I ever was when I actually was a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other aspect of community that I wanted to ask you about in terms of the film was your film festival journey, because this one premiered at LA Film Festival and played a number of other festivals. And Hannah, your last film premiered at South by Southwest. And obviously, given the landscape that we're in right now, where film festivals are having to close their doors and postpone for the moment, and in some cases cancel, I was interested in just hearing a little bit about how important that festival journey has been to you as a writer, as a filmmaker, for you, Liana, as an actor, and what you're really excited about rekindling in terms of that connectivity and community, and why it's so important for festivals to still exist in the landscape when we're on the other side of this.
Well, South by Southwest has changed my life. I mean, everything that I get to do now could be indirectly attributed to that festival and what that provided me as a launching pad. And I am so grateful. It's hard to even talk about it because it really did change my life. And I think people love movies, and they love being in the theater, and they love being together. And I would hate to lose that. But that being said, I think it's cool that we have these streaming options now, because more content gets to be made. That's more jobs for all of us.
Yeah, it's such a magical experience. I think, especially after having done a lot of independent movies in my career, you know, you step on a set, it's a miracle that you're even there in the first place, because it's so hard to get those movies off the ground. You have so much fun making it. And then, I mean, very similar to this movie, a couple of years go by and you're like, oh, am I ever going to see this movie? What's going to happen? And then you go to this film festival and you run into people that you worked with 2 years ago, and then you get to sit in a theater, which that's why we all started doing this, is because we sat in a theater and we were moved by something. And then we get to watch our work on a screen. It's one of the most magical experiences in the world. So I love them. I love all film festivals. They're amazing.
Such a celebration. I mean, it's the ultimate celebration of what we love to do. And then you get to meet so many other people who also love to do it. And you get to create a new family that way.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask you both a little bit about auditioning, and actually specifically self-taping, because I think now that we're in this current climate and businesses are closed right now while everyone works from home, a lot more actors are having to self-tape and send in videos of auditions. And I was interested if, for the two of you, if there's anything that you found that really works for you when you're just in your own home self-taping, as opposed to actually being in an audition room.
Well, welcome to my self-tape room. This is it. This curtain is where I do all my self-tapes, ideally without a chair that's squeaking so much where it sounds like I'm farting the whole time. So sorry. No, but there's, you can see there's a window right there, and it's also a gym. And I don't know, I like taping. Liana, how do you feel about taping?
I used to hate them. I used to really not like them, just because there is such a special energy about like being in a room with a casting director, especially if I know so many wonderful casting directors now, and it's so fun to see them in person and talk to them and get notes from them. It's a very special experience when you're in a room with a casting director or your producers or director. And I do miss that right now, but there's beauty to self tapes too, because you can redo it. And if you don't like it, or if the lighting's weird and you don't have that type of control when you're in a casting office. But I've realized that, because I'm doing a lot of self tapes right now, obviously because of everything that's happening, I'm just starting to treat it like it is an audition. So I will get up in the morning and I will get dressed as if I am leaving my house, and my boyfriend is the one that's taping me, and I have him coach me and give me notes, and just really try to treat it as if I'm not sitting in my bedroom doing a tape.
I'm trying to do that more now as well, Liana. Like before, I used to spend hours doing it and do a million takes, and now I just do 2 probably, because that's really all you get in the room, and overthinking it is really not going to help your performance too much.
Yeah.
For me, I like to be in the room if it's a comedy because of that energy. And then, but if it's like a a pretty girl role or a sexy girl role, I'd rather tape, because then I can have pretty window light and, you know, whip out my push-up bra and not feel embarrassed. So it like depends on the situation. Some auditions are better in the room. Some are better to just do in the privacy of your own home.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for taking the time, not just to share your experience in making the film, but also all this wealth of experience that you both have from being in the industry. So thank you so much. And I hope that everyone watching this will tune in to watch Banana Split, which is out on video on demand on March 27th.